Great.
Good afternoon. It is July 17th, a Saturday at 1 p.m. And that means it is time for the latest in Western Liberty Network's Saturday Zoom sessions. Today's session is going to feature Janice DYSINGER of Oregonians for Fair Elections. And there she is waving at us. And Western Liberty Network is very proud that Oregonians for Fair Election is one of our independent affiliate organizations. And so if you're curious about what Western Liberty Network is doing or about the organization, then you can go to the westernlibertynetwork.org website. And here it is up on the screen right now. And there you see Janice's lovely face as the homepage advertises this session that's taking place right now. And if you would like to get more information, there are several things you can do. If you scroll down, some information is available on our stories. Like here, you can click on a speech by Andrei Ilyaronov, who was Vladimir Putin's chief economic advisor before he defected to the United States. That's interesting. He spoke at one of our conferences. And if you scroll down, there are a variety of resources. Kat Timp's speech to us, Lars Larson, others. And if you would like training resources, you can go to our training tab. This is our training tab here. And if you scroll down, you can download a variety of documents on different topics. Each of these are designed to be provided in conjunction with a 1-hour live training, but they will stand up on their own and they can give you good information. And if you scroll down farther, you can look at videos of previous Saturday training sessions and just find a topic you like, and you can watch it as you wish on your favorite browser. Janet Bailey is joining us. So if you like what you see and want to support what Western Liberty Network does, you can always go to the support tab. And here you can make a variety of one-time or monthly contributions that will help keep us on the road and help us to do the work that we do. It's important to note that Western Liberty Network is a 501c3 organization. That means we do not endorse any political party, any candidate. We do not endorse any bill or legislation or ballot measure. Even candidates we train, we don't endorse them. Sometimes in certain elections, we endorse more, or we train more than one person who's running for the same seat. So that's always interesting to watch. It's available to everyone. And statements made by our guest speakers and the participants are entirely their own, and they're responsible for their own and do not necessarily represent the opinion of Western Liberty Network as an organization. So with all of those things out of the way, I'm now going to turn it over to my good friend, Janice DYSINGER. Janice DYSINGER is one of those largely unsung heroes in Oregon conservative politics, and she has dedicated a significant part of her life and her time to work to help us have fair elections with election integrity. In this particular time, that's important to have, given how election integrity has been such a big part of the news. And so she's going to today tell you about her organization, what she does, what she has done, and what she wants to do. And she, of course, has expressed a willingness to answer your questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Janice. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Richard. I just want to really give you kudos for all of your very hard work, and you're such a jewel in Oregon and helping so many people who want to get involved in things but don't know what to do. And so you make the road to being more effective a joyful road to go down. And your trainings are interesting. They're very factual and important in that they give people tools that they need, and it makes it possible for us to get involved and make a difference. So I want to thank you especially for your encouragement to me to get involved in starting doing the petitions and just showing me how to do it when I had a desire to do so. So thank you so much. And if you get a chance to go to one of Richard's conferences or trainings, do not miss it. I mean, that training with Vladimir Putin's financial advisor was just eye-opening and amazing. I can remember that well. They're all great, but that was just fantastic. So I got involved back in 2008. I was just thinking I need to go down to the elections office, and I thought, I think I have a right to see what's going on there, and I kind of dismissed it, and then I kept thinking about it, and I thought, I just got to go. I just have to do it because I'm going to go nuts here thinking I should do it, and I don't do anything about it. So I went down there and took a tour, and the first thing I saw was a gentleman dressed up in like a janitor's outfit. He had a black shirt and black pants and had a duffel bag with him, and he was on his, this was a couple days before the election, and he was on his way downstairs, and now downstairs is the election boards where they open the ballots. And things hadn't started yet. We were just on a tour to see how the setup was. And so I had to wear a visitor's badge and had to have a monitor with me wherever I went in the building so that they would know that I wasn't doing anything nefarious. So I had a guard with me all the time. But this guy had an orange badge, and that meant he was a contractor and he could go wherever he wanted to in the building. So I saw him walking downstairs, and I saw him walking over to what was just described to me as the green room where the ballots are stored. And the door to that room was open, and the person that had been in there had left, and the door was open, and so he was walking over towards that door, and he had this big duffel bag with him, and it had the imprint of what looked like a box of ballots in it. They're the size of a piece of paper, about 5 or 6 inches deep, and they hold 500 ballots. So I asked my monitor, I said, what is he doing? What does he do? He goes, oh, he's the window washer. I look around the building downstairs, there's no windows. So I'm going like, oh, that doesn't make sense. I'm going, well, he's going over towards the green room. I don't think there's anybody in there. And he goes, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. I'm like, so I asked the guy upstairs, and he goes, it's okay. And finally somebody came around the corner and went into that room as he was going into it, but I'm like, that just doesn't make sense to me. So then we go on along the election, and the election starts, and they're processing the ballots, and I'm able to see the first 2 rows in front of me, and they have tables with 4 people on them, and they're supposed to be opposing parties, or they don't have to be like Republican and Democrat. They can be any of the 10 parties in Oregon, or even a non-affiliated voter. They just have to be different. So we're seeing, or I am seeing, people put a sticker over the McCain spot and marking the Obama spot. And I'm like raising my hand to the manager and saying, they're doing stuff here. And so she'd tell them not to do it. She didn't fire them, didn't take them out of the board or anything. She just said, you can't do that. So I'm like really upset, and I talked to it was Tim Scott's first election, and so he's trying to get his bearings as well, and he said, I'm sure they're doing it right. I'll go talk to him, but I'm sure they're doing it right. So we continue to see things like that happen, and so I went and got 100 people from the local Republican Party to join me down there, and we started just doing shifts, and 6 of us saw this happen in front of us, and we complained very loudly, and the manager said she was trying to train them, and they were working on it. So then we called the news station. They wouldn't even listen to us. And so we went to the commissioners, and we started going in every week when they were doing their televised hearing. And finally, over that election cycle, the commissioners encouraged Mr. Scott to make sure that we had better access, because we were looking through windows. Some of the windows we looked through were like 4 inches by a foot, and all we could see was the backs of these people, and we didn't see what they were doing. We couldn't see it. We couldn't see the ballot signatures as they were trying to compare them. It was really poor access. So over that time period, we gained better access. We had ability. They put dual monitors for the people who were checking signatures into a room where we could see them. There were 13 of them in there. We were only allowed a couple people in there at a time, but at least we could see the signatures. And they gave us 4 super observers so they could go anywhere in the building they wanted. And by being a loud squeaky wheel, we got a lot better access. A couple of years later, one of the people that worked downstairs that was a Republican was sent out to Clackamas, and I think you might remember that, I think it was in 12 or 14, I don't remember which, of a lady getting arrested out there for doing the same thing of changing the ballot. So, but that was the culture at Multnomah County elections at that time. So since then, I started monitoring the elections every time, and in 2010 I come down there and they've changed the ballots and they're opening them up before election day, and I'm going like, what's the heck's going on here? I find out, well, the legislature allowed them to do that. So I find out, okay, now I've got to go down to the legislature and start monitoring that process if they're going to be changing the law all the time. So it was just another part I had to get involved. So I joined up with a group called Oregon Citizens Lobby, and I started monitoring the rules committee because it's the committee that does most of the election law. I found out later through the transportation group when they got the automatic voter registration that they went through that committee, and through the judicial department we got another bill which was they were trying to pass, which was to allow felons to vote in prison, register and vote from prison. That one didn't pass the session, but they tried. So I started a petition I did it a couple of times. So the first time the petition was to require proof of citizenship when people register to vote. And I started this like 10 months before the petitions were due, which I thought maybe I could do. But it took 8 months of going through the court process before they approved my petition. So somebody challenged it, and then we had to have a court process to go through to allow me to have the petition because of the language. They wanted to make sure it was right. I got the language from another state, so I knew it was legal. But they held it up for 8 months, and I only got 2 months to collect signatures, so I didn't even try. And in that process, I learned that somebody had gotten a hold of our actual sheet and had gone out and was collecting signatures, and they were doing it all wrong. And I didn't even know these people, so I had no connection to them, and they weren't. And so the Secretary of State calls me up and tells me I'm doing the signature petition gathering all wrong. And I found out later that that's a strategy that they do. They go out and gather signatures. You're only allowed to sign the ballot once, but if they have other people posing as us, they can go out and get signatures and then hide that petition away from us. We'll never get it. So it was really just discouraging sometimes and eye-opening. So I learned that you have to really be careful of your petitioners. And so I started the petition very early. You can start before 2 years ahead of time. You can start now for 2026 if you want to, if that's the election you want to participate in. So I started early, and my petition had already been through the court, so it only took 2 months that time to get it approved. So I got further along, but I didn't have a big enough organization to really get the signatures done through that time. I tried my very best, but I didn't get it done. You have to have a team, you have to have means, you have to have the ability to advertise, and not only get your petition qualified for the election, for the election, and so that it'll be on the ballot, but then you have to advocate for it to the public and prove your case there, and hopefully it will pass. And I was involved with Oregonians for Immigration Reform and their Measure 88 to prevent non-citizens, illegal aliens from being able to get a driver's license. And we got that on the ballot, and it did pass. So I learned an awful lot through that process. So here we are to today, and the legislature has just passed HB 2681, which basically does away with voter list maintenance. And it does that by not requiring someone to have a correct address on the voter rolls. So current law allows a homeless person to put any landmark. It can be the corner of 6th and Burnside, or it can be the marina out on Marina Drive, and you just say which one, or it can be Oaks Park. It just has to name a location within the county that a person is most likely to be found. That's what the language says. And so this bill takes that out. That's not even required anymore, that the address or the location be correct. And also, just to note that the county clerks are trying to keep the voter rolls accurate because they use the NCOA. It's a national database of people who have moved and changes their old address to their new address. So the post office will, when a person notifies the post office that they're changing addresses, then the elections office gets a notice as well, and they can keep your voter rolls address up to date. But 2681 took all requirements to keep your address correct on the voter rolls. It's not required anymore. That bill has been passed, it's been signed by the governor, and it's going to go into effect on September 25th of this year. It also removes the requirement that a person vote within a certain period of time. So we used to be, if you were on the voter rolls, you had 5 years you had to vote in one of the 2 federal elections. And Dennis Richardson changed it to 10 years through an administrative, and then later the legislature put it into law that it was 10 years that you could go. If you voted that last 10th year, you would still stay on the voter rolls. At that same time, we had the automatic voter registration, so people that went in every 8 years to get their license renewed, they would automatically renew their license there. So they had the process of automatic, and then at the end of 10 years, if you didn't go through that DMV process of ID or a driver's license update at 10 years, if you hadn't voted or updated your address, then you would be taken off. That's where we are right this minute. But HB 2681 will remove even those requirements. So a person can be on the voter rolls with a wrong address and not voted. They could leave the state, go a couple of decades, and come back and say, I want my ballot, and vote in that election. So I decided I can't at least try to stop it. So I went down and got some other people with me, and we filed for referendum 302. We didn't know the number, they gave it to us. But the referendum process is different than an initiative petition. The referendum allows you to challenge a bill that's just been passed by the legislature. You have to do that process within, you have to complete it within 90 days after the legislature has the sine die, which is their last day in adjourn. So we got that committee together. We formed a committee, and we got our language. The language is actually, the text of the language is actually the House Bill 2681. So it gets confusing to people. So your education is really a process that you have to be clear on, and I'm still learning how to do that. So when I tell people I want to get 2681 on it, they go, that's a terrible bill. And I go, well, I agree with you. That's why we're putting it on up for to get it on the ballot in 2022. So this process, if we get the signatures by September 24th, will stop House Bill 2681 from going into effect, and then it will be placed on the 2022 ballot so that people will have the chance to either accept it or reject it, and it will go before the people, and they can decide whether they want House Bill 2681 to go into effect or not. So that's where we are today. I have a website called cleanvoterrolls.com. You can go there and download the PDF of a single signer sheet, and you have to say, I printed this, or ask somebody to print it for me. If you can't print it, you can let me know or anybody know, and they can print it for you. And then you sign that I printed it or had somebody print it myself. And then, yes, I want this House Bill 2681 to be added to the 2022 election ballot. So that's what a single signer sheet. And then I also, just so I, my little visuals, this is, I don't know if you can see that. This is House Bill 2681. It's 3 pages long. It's the enrolled version, right there, enrolled. That means that's the one the governor signed. And then I have a 10-line sheet here where I can gather signatures instead of just doing each individual signature. I can gather signatures, and anybody who wants to help me can contact me, and we can get them a 10-line sheet as well. The 10-line sheet has some of the language on the back of the. This is called the cover sheet, and it looks like the back, but it's actually the front, and it tells what the beginning part of the language that's being changed, and then it has the chief petitioner. So you return the petition to one of the chief petitioners, and we're asking you to. We hope you send it to Cheryl. We can all get it to her, but she's the one collecting, and she's our committee chair. And then these are the rules the committee, the circulators' rules that they have to follow in order to collect signatures. And the signatures from a volunteer will be on white paper. We are able to get paid petitioners, but we're hoping we don't have to do that. Volunteer petition gatherers are always better at collecting signatures, and they're more knowledgeable usually of what the bill is about than somebody who's paid. So that's like the paid, that's some signatures that I've gathered. So after you have to watch the people sign their portion of it, and then after they're all gathered, the circulator signs and dates and puts their address at the bottom. They don't fill in this part that says the number. That's the job of the chief petitioner, Cheryl, to do. So we have to gather 74,680 signatures during this time frame, and our time limit, no matter when we start this petition, is September 24th. That's the 90th day after sine die of 2021. So that's basically what I'm up to. I've got a great team, and they're growing very quickly. We're going to have many events between now and the end of August, and there's I'm going to be going to other events that other people are having, and hopefully we'll have people at those events around the state. And we're trying to get in every county, we're trying to get somebody to contact if they wanted to talk about the sheet. But you can always call me, and my phone number is 503-757-0670, and it's on our website, clearvoterrolls.com. And we have an email address there. It's info@oregoniansforfairelections. That's my email address. I also have another one, which is janice@dysinger.info. That's just my personal one, but a lot of people know me there, so I can take a email any way I can get it and transfer it over into the system. So I don't know if you have any questions about it, but you're sure welcome to ask me questions. That's the end of what I was going to speak about. Just so you can unmute yourself and.
That's very good, Janice. You know, perhaps while the other participants are formulating questions, you might want to opine a little bit about the election audits that are taking place right now in Arizona and Georgia. I guess there was a hearing in front of the Arizona Senate a couple of days ago regarding some of their findings. Have you been following that at all?
I have, although I'll say our petition is getting a little bit taking up of my time, so sure. I'm not following it as closely as I would otherwise. I know Liz Harris down in Arizona. She is someone who has gone out and with a team of a huge team, it's thousands of people, have gone out and they collaborated with Bobby Piton, who is a numbers person. He's does databases and he does it professionally, as to go out and see analyzing data. So he analyzed the voter rolls in Arizona, and Liz Harris took that information and he gave her the most likely spots of information that didn't make sense. And so she got her team to go out and visit those addresses, and she got, you're busy, Richard.
Yes. I'm sorry.
To me.
I'm about ready to send everyone a message, letting them know that if they have
Okay.
questions, they can either ask you directly or type it in into the chat window.
Great.
I'm sorry for the sound.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Richard, this is Charlie Allen. Your clicking keyboard is actually suppressing Janice's verbal stuff.
I am so sorry, Janice. I've got one of these old IBM clicky keyboards. You remember those? So I'll mute myself. My fault.
Okay. Anyway, so Liz goes out with her team and she collects affidavits. And when she goes to a house, she knows that the people in that house are friendly to her. They're not the problem. And so she asks them if who's registered to vote. Well, she can tell them who's registered to vote there and ask them if those people are there. And often they're not. And they're what we consider shadow voters. Often the people that live at a house don't know that there's other people listed there getting their ballots mailed somewhere else. So they're just placed in that precinct. They are voting, but the people at the house don't know that they're even in the process. So she goes out and she says, does this person live here? And who have you voted? And how did you vote? By mail or in person? Not how you chose a vote, but the process of your voting. And so if she finds a discrepancy, she asks the owner of the home if they'll make an affidavit of their personal knowledge of who's living in that house. And they challenge the voter that doesn't actually live there, because it's in Arizona, it's a requirement that you live at the residential address to be on the voter rolls. And they have a lot more provisions in the Arizona law for their voters, that they have to prove they are a citizen if they want to vote in the state and local elections. The federal, there are, I think, 10,000 people in Arizona that haven't given information on citizenship, so they can only vote in their federal election, their HAVA provision. I'll tell you about Oregon's HAVA provisions in a minute. But so Liz goes, and she's collected over 10,000 of these affidavits of people that do not live in the houses where they're registered to vote. So that along is one of the evidences they have to get the audit going in Arizona. So I will tell you that in Arizona, the race was decided by 10,457 votes, and 74,243 mail-in ballots were found where there was no clear record of them ever being sent. They were not mailed out, but they were mailed back in. There were 3,981 people voted despite registering after the October 15th deadline. And there were 11,326 people who voted who were not on the rolls on November 7th, but were on December 4th. So after the election, they were added. 18,000 voted and then were removed from the rolls after the election. They were they were accurately duplicated, or how many times they, I messed up here. Maricopa did not pull serial numbers, put serial numbers on their original and duplicated ballots, and so cannot ensure that they were accurately duplicated or how many times they were duplicated. So they have ballots that are not unique ballots, and so they don't know how many times they were duplicated, or they shouldn't have been duplicated at all. So the number of votes certified does not match the number of ballots sent to the audit. A digital forensic expert expert been called, revealed that Maricopa County election system was breached during the course of the 2020 election, and antivirus systems were not allowed access to server systems. Okay, sorry. I pay for the highest level Comcast says they have for internet, and I still have unstable internet service. I'm sorry. I think I was talking about the fact that 37,000 queries came in over the internet to their voting system during that time, according to that expert. And let's see, the script used by the EMS administrator account showed the 37,000 queries, and they don't know how many. Let's see, we don't know because Maricopa County won't hand over the routers, which were ordered by the subpoena. So they had 37,000 inquiries on that system, but Maricopa County won't give them the routers so they can check it out. And all access logs were wiped out in March of 2021. The ballot calibration was off by an average of 1,000%, leading to bleed through, which can cause overvotes and inaccurate vote attribution. And the county has stated that they use thick vote secure paper, which should have limited the bleed through in the event of a miscalibration. However, the Cyber Ninjas team found that a large number of the ballots on very thin paper, so that was a discrepancy on the type of paper. It's a kinematic artifact, I guess you can say. The ballots printed on demand at the vote centers on election day had the worst calibration issues. More than 168,000 ballots were affected. And the Arizona Senator Wendy Rogers said, "I have heard enough. With tens of thousands of ballots mailed without being requested, the over 10,000 people who voted after registration on after registering after the November 3rd election, the failure of Maricopa to turn over the 40% of their machines, the passwords that Dominion still refuses to turn over, and tens of thousands of unauthorized queries demonstrated how insecure the election was. I call for Biden electors to be recalled to Arizona, and a new election must be currently, and we need to get it right." So that's the report from Arizona that I got. I know Pennsylvania is also ordering some auditing. Georgia is, and I don't know if you saw the video of Ruby and her friends scanning in ballots and rescanning them and rescanning them. And we have testimony from different states. I remember an immigrant that was testifying. I think it was Wisconsin, but I'm not sure. It was one of the northeastern states, and she was there were so many that testified, but she said that she couldn't see, or what she could see, that they were rescanning ballots. And then there was a woman who worked for the elections department as a contractor, and she saw them rescanning ballots over and over and over that were all for Biden, and they weren't clearing them out if they started a rescan. They just added them to it, so that she said it should be about 50 maximum that a person would scan through at one for one set, and they were in the hundreds before they would enter them into the system. So that showed that they had rescanned those ballots instead of the original 50 times that they had rescanned them. That would be 8 times for that group if they had 400 in that scan batch.
So Janice,
Mm-hmm.
You said that the current law allows the homeless to enter any location as long as it's in the county, and that the NCOA used the update voter, they try to update, but they use voters records, but now they're, as of September 23rd, because of 2681 passing, that will be the effective date. But now you said something. Now, if we move your name, if a person moves, their name stays on the voters registration for 10 years. But if we do something, 2681 will go on the ballot for the 2022 election. What has to be done in order to get it on a ballot?
We have to get 74,680 signatures for referendum 302. So that's what I'm doing. I'm collecting signatures to get this bill placed on the 2022 election. So I'm gathering signatures like this. I've got volunteers. Anybody who wants to help me can help me. Gather these signatures until September 24th is when we have to turn them in.
Janice, what is the referendum number, did you say?
302. And you can go to cleanvoterrolls.com.
Okay.
And all of that information is laid out there. So
Okay,
the current law.
Yeah, and we've, most of us have seen the videos for the other states. And I got a notification today, this morning, that if I wanted to watch what was going on in Arizona, just to click and watch. I didn't because I had a busy morning. But how are we doing here in Oregon? What's going on? What is an update for our own state?
Well, we don't have a Republican senator like they do and Senate down in Arizona pushing for it. So we are going to have to really have a grassroots effort demanding an audit here and showing some kind of proof that there is a problem here. Liz Harris did that in Arizona by going out and getting affidavits from people who lived in the area that from people that lived in the house, saying that the other people that were on the voter rolls weren't living in. So we can prove that our voter rolls are not accurate. That helps build a case. But you have to have more than just that. You have to, the people need to demand an audit. We need to maybe have an audit done in a small county, in a small venue, that would show that there's some problems with our election system. You have to build a case to get an audit, to get somebody to demand it. A sheriff could be part of that process. He's a constitutional authority in a county. So there's some things like that that we can do.
Wasn't there some kind of an audit in Polk County with a former representative Neerman?
Yeah, so we went there and I helped with that, and we only did it for one race in that county, and it came out just great. That whole system came out great. The numbers came out just fine. And so we are starting to look at one thing I didn't think about before until this election, and knowing about it, is the transfer. Well, we did work on it some in Multnomah County, because we saw them taking the thumb drive out of the tabulation room and taking it and out into the outer office, where they stuck it into the elections director's computer, which was connected to the internet, and he sent the information from his computer to the state. So we said, well, we don't know that your thumb drive could be messing up the count some. So he got new thumb drives that have passwords on them and that he could take out of the computer room, but he's still taking them into his computer, and we don't see that process, and there's no audit of that process. So Douglas County this time, one of the volunteers down there noticed that the election night reporting system was different, had different numbers on it for the total number of voters in the county, and was reporting it on, it says my internet is unstable again. I hope I don't drop off. Anyway, the numbers were different at the state reporting system than they were at the county. And so we wondered if maybe that might be something we could talk about, because when I talked to the elections clerk there, he said, I sent her a total number of voters that were accounted for each candidate, or what our election results were. She took information that was different off of her system and reported to the election night reporting system for how many voters there were in the county, and it was off by a couple thousand people. So the election night reporting system is a nationwide system that people can log into and put their results in. And lots of people are connected to that. We don't know that it's insecure, so we don't know, and that's what Mike Lindell's talking about on all these packets that was sent around. We don't know if that system is accurate, and we don't have any way to test it here. So I'm hoping that the fact that we can't test it, that we need to have it tested. That would be part of the case that I would make, because I've seen that system over and over, and I've had election experts tell me that it's faulty.
Wasn't there something about the
Did
system
somebody
not
have a
being
question?
certified before the election, that the computer, something wasn't certified right before the election when they should have been?
Right. So let me see if I can remember the name of the group. It's the EAC, the Election Assistance Commission, used to certify. They had the NEC, I think it was the National Election. Oh, I can't remember the name of the group that was testing, and they quit testing, so you couldn't get your state your state systems tested anymore. You just had to test them. They made a law so that the Secretary of State could test them, and if she was happy with them, then we could use them.
So, Janice, so did you say that Douglas County's voter number was different than what? Than the state of Oregon, or what?
The number of
Right.
voters that were registered in that county were different than what was reported by the Secretary of State.
Okay.
And they did correct it by 9:30 that night, because he called in and said, hey, what are you using here? That's not our numbers. So their voter participation went from 19 to 21%, I think. That's what I remember. If you want me to get specific, I can look that up for you.
No, that doesn't. So I worked on Kelly Sloop's campaign. I'm with Parents' Rights in Education, but I kind of veered away from that for the school board elections, because I recruited for 19 different school districts, one of which was my own, which was Tiger Tualatin. And we were told we had three conservatives running. One pulled out, another one entered, but she entered in the wrong position, which meant we had two Republicans running against each other. It's not political. So let's just say,
I think when those cases finish, we'll have even bigger, a larger number of issues.
We need the person who just joined that's labeled B to please mute yourself. Our question could be answered.
So anyway, that the Democrats contributed $40,000 to Tiger Tualatin. We're a pretty small, in comparison, school district, but the $40,000 went to defeat our two that were running, and it worked. Kelly Sloop won. For the first time, I learned about Chase the Vote, because that's what we did for Kelly Sloop when I'm talking about the school board election, because that's the election that I'm more involved with, although I did work on Kelly Sloop's state representative election as well. And I thought that was very interesting. There's the winner, the one that has the highest votes, and then the next in line. And if that gap is tolerable, you can get a list from the county for the ballots that have been returned, lack of signature didn't match, various things. And so we had them fill out another ballot, and there was a whole team of us that went out to their homes, picked up their ballots, and then resubmitted them to the county, which brought Kelly to the top. She won for the Westland-Wilsonville school district. But so at her congratulations party, there was several of us spoke, And one was someone that was working on election fraud here in Oregon. And that's what we were mostly interested in, because we've all seen the videos of the other states, and it's very obvious that there was voter fraud. And he was saying that a group of them were going to Arizona and meet with them to see what we could do here in Oregon regarding voter fraud. Do you know, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I think there's America's first audit on Telegram, and I'm not sure. I don't remember the name of there. It goes by the national, and then the state, and then very local groups. They break it up into these different groups,
Mhm.
and they're working on trying to find what can be done in each state to get an audit in each state.
Mhm. And then I was blocked on Facebook for a while, which comes as no surprise because I'm very out there with my posts. But it was good because it directed me over to Rumble and Telegram and some various others, which also included Multnomah County. And it appeared to me, although I don't chime in very much on that site, it appeared to me that there are a number of people in Multnomah County that are working diligently to resolve any voter fraud in Multnomah County. So it sounds like things are being done. People are working on trying to correct it. We've had so many people that have had good campaigns who have turned up losing. Jeanette Shadow was one.
Yeah, I worked on Multnomah was the one I worked on too. Thank
Okay.
you.
Janice,
Yes,
this is Charlie Allen.
Hi,
Is
Charlie.
it time for me to ask a question?
please do.
Regarding HB 2681, and this is really a strategic question. Lots of us at the grassroots basis are outraged at what HB 2681 has done. But right now, most Oregonians, the rank and file voter, I shouldn't say rank and file, the average voter just doesn't know or doesn't care what's in that bill. And it's going to, as you have said, it's going to be a huge advertising campaign to generate both the knowledge and then the momentum for change.
It is.
And I put this in the perspective of 2681 is a not insignificant, but still only part of the problem with voting here in Oregon. I mean, we've got issues with voter registration. We've got observer access at the elections offices. We've got tabulation computer security issues. All of these need to be addressed. Most of them are relatively high level. Any one of them can flip an election.
You're right.
So the point that I'm driving towards is, how do we fight the strategic battle with Oregon's 3 million voters, not with our Republican or conservative base, but rather with all of those that we have to convince that things need to be changed? It's a question of resources, that is finances. It's a question of resources of how many people we can mobilize to circulate petitions and get issues on the ballot. And it's a matter of voter fatigue. If we keep hitting Oregon's voters over and over and over again with a message of, well, this is yet another thing that needs to be changed, eventually we're going to lose the audience. Unfortunately, I come at you with a question of, is challenging HB 2681 the right thing to be doing at the moment? Because there are equally as big, if not bigger, issues that we need to tackle. And if we mount a successful campaign to defeat HB 2681, I'm concerned that voter fatigue for those other issues is going to kick in, and we won't get anybody to listen to us in the future simply because they're tired of it. Is there merit in putting together a comprehensive ballot initiative that covers all of the issues that I just mentioned and going after the voters once? This husbands our resources, both in terms of finances and in terms of personnel. And it tries to do it all at one big effort that only has to be done once. I invite your comments.
I
So
say good
Oregon,
question, Charlie.
so I would love to do that, but Oregon law won't allow it. So every initiative petition, now, if a legislator were to put that on into the legislative system, they could do it because they can have. It just has to address elections, a broad subject. But if you have an initiative petition, it can only challenge one subject of the law. So each one from an initiative petition has to be done separately. So right now, we have this particular petition, but it's not the only one. There should be a whole lot of referendums, and you may see a whole lot more by August 9th, because that's the last day the governor can sign them if she's going to sign them. And at that point, there will probably be other initiatives that come, other referendums that come forward if the people have enough determination to do that. By then, you'll only have a month and a half to gather all these signatures. And so we're putting forward, and we're working with a lot of people to bring some attention to this whole process, and you're going to see it accelerate very fast. And so I know there are other people also looking at doing a number of initiatives as well as referendums, and 2022 ballot is going to be a very busy time. So if we don't go after this at this time, when so many people are focused on our, I believe, corrupt election system, and I will tell you, I think a lot of elections clerks and directors, or whatever their title is in their counties, are trying to do their job. I think that it's being corrupted in spite of their efforts to keep it clean. So I would urge people to not just to say that this is the only thing that needs to happen, but keep your hat on, because things are going to get a little busy. There's going to be more things coming forward, and we need to build teams of people that are connected. Oregon has been isolated. Oregonians have been isolated, and they've been afraid to go out in public for fear of getting sick or getting mobbed when they gather. So I don't see that we can have just stand on the corner and gather signatures anymore. We need to do this through networking. And they can't keep, I know, because I have a friend in Michigan who gathered 400,000 signatures during the COVID lockdown. They did this one-on-one, people to people. It can be done. If people are upset about things enough, they can do it. So websites can list the different bills that need to be addressed. We can work at different organizations and through different groups to do different parts of that. Some people are more focused on the different petitions. Some people are focused on going out and canvassing. Pardon me. So I think the comprehensive plan was going to have many parts, and they're going to be moving in. And as we see in, I think Lindell's having his cyber symposium that's going to be showing those packets that were sent out on the internet that for going from the county to the state, or however they were. In his videos, he shows some of those packets coming into Oregon. So I think there will be. I think there'll be a lot that we learn over this next month. In August, I think Arizona is going to be releasing their whole audit. That's the last I heard anyway. There are many experts on data that are coming forward, like Dr. Franks, let's see, Bobby Pite, and I don't know his title, but he's a data analyst as well. And Seth Keshler, you see him on the internet. He says, or he's analyzed 120 different American elections and how those flow, and he says that Oregon data is wrong. He doesn't know how the fraud was done, but he says there's no way that these numbers make any sense. He says that he, as an expert analyst, he's 25-year data analyst for the military, and he's done all kinds of analytics for throughout the world. And he said that it looks to him like 30 conservative counties where the Republican vote was suppressed. Just I think in like Clackamas, 30,000 people. I think it was Jackson was 5,000 people down, Republicans down. Umatilla was down 3,000. Columbia County was down 5,000 from what he would expect it to be. And the Democrat vote was increased from what any previous records that they had ever made in those counties. And it had been leveling off or shrinking in the past. So the numbers just didn't make sense. He said, I'm like a cop. I'm at a murder scene. I can look down and see there's a dead person here. I don't know how they died. I've got to, we bring in experts to find out how that, but I can tell you there's a dead person here. So when we look at different experts like that, we know something's wrong. And I think as we network, we'll find out a whole lot more. So I don't know if anybody else, that's all I had to say to that.
So Janice, when you say down, do you mean down in actual votes or actual voter registrations or what?
So the registration, we're hearing Republicans tell us, I had my vote changed from Republican to NAV or a Democrat or independent or something after they go to DMV or something. I've heard that from thousands of people in Oregon. So they can't all be wrong. When they check with the Secretary of State, they said, "Oh well, you forgot you did this," but something's wrong there. Something is just not working. And
so you said that
the number of Republican voters should have been higher than what was reported. The number of Democrat voters, the number of Republicans was less than what he thought they should be. The number of Democrats was higher than he thought they would be. The Republicans still won those counties, but not by as much as was expected because of the voter registration and the growth in those counties. The demographics of those counties was all Trump country. So it just didn't ring true. So he expected it to be like this, and it was like this. And then in the Democrat counties, I've never seen Multnomah County get 100,000 voter registrations. The highest I ever saw was 50,000. And I don't know about you, I've gone out trying to register people to vote. I never got thousands of people to register to vote at one time. But we have universities here, so I suspect that they were doing them in the universities, and they would save them all up and dump them in just right before the election, so it's difficult to get them all processed. Makes for more confusion. But 50,000 is the highest I've ever seen it in the past, and it was 100,000 this election. I don't see how we got 100,000 more Democrats. I didn't think there was that many rioters. I don't know.
So are you talking about Democrats that were registered or Democratic votes that were actually submitted and counted? Votes. or registrations.
So they try to make the registrations make sense for how the vote came out. So it's easier to suppress actual numbers if the registration doesn't show it. So I was talking about both. The actual vote was here, Republican over Democrat. From all the statistical things they saw coming beforehand, the Republicans had actually gained more registrations than what was showing, because they had gained like 8% voter registration. If you like, Janet, if you could send me your email or call me at 503-757-0670, and I'll get you, Seth Cashel did a presentation on the Telegram, and I can send that to you. I don't
Well,
have.
I'm just, my question is, it's just that, so more Republicans registered, but what, they didn't vote? They were registered but didn't vote?
He thinks more registered than what were shown on the books, okay? He
Okay.
thinks it was
Registered.
suppressed. More Republicans did vote than Democrats. There were more Democrats that voted than what he expected. So it would be good to do an audit in that county to see if that's actually how the vote came in those 30 counties. Yes?
Janice, this is Pat Krikorian, and I was curious about, I had just seen Seth Keshler today on Steve Bannon, and I was fascinated by what he had to say. So where can we read more about what he has to say, or was it just on Telegram, or where do you find out more about, where could I find out more about him or what he says?
Well, I think Steve Bannon probably has a link to him. I know he's on Telegram as well, so I would have to look there.
Okay, thank you.
Janice, Charlie Allen.
Yes.
Is the recording from last week's Zoom meeting that you hosted for Oregon election integrity, is that available to the public?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not yet. Seth is going to do another one that he'll let me release to the public. I'm hoping to get that done in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
So right now I didn't get permission from all the people in it to release it. So I'm going to be giving that do one where I can release it.
Okay, we're getting close to 2 o'clock here, and we don't want to go too long. Are there any final questions for Janice before we close up today? Okay, I don't see any, so I would like to thank each of you for being on the call today. Janice, as always, I'd like to thank you for your time today. And I want to let everyone know that as soon as this session is over, I'm going to download it, and by the end of the afternoon, the recording will be posted on the training tab of the Western Liberty Network.org website if people want to review it. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for participating, and we will have another session next Saturday. So watch your emails real close. Thank you very much.
I'm putting my email and phone number in the chat if anybody wants to contact me.
Very good.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Richard.
Okay, thank you very much, and God bless everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Richard.
Bye. Bye.